everybody. This is Shannon, Nicole's podcast producer, and we thought it would be important to put a message right here at the top of the episode. So, as some of you may know, Nicole does currently reside in Asheville, North Carolina, which was devastated by Hurricane Helene last week. She wants you all to know that she is physically safe, but a little bit overwhelmed with everything that has happened. The city and region are devastated, and there's currently no internet, water, or electricity, and the roads have been washed away, which is trapping many people. If you would like to help, I've put a link to some resources at the top of the description of this episode, and the best places to get updates from BZ are going to be her Instagram and her newsletter, The Loop, which I will also link right here at the top. If you have any questions or words of encouragement, please feel free to email hello@nicolebz.com. Myself and her assistant Laura will be monitoring that inbox this week and sending her any nice messages you guys have. Anyways, we do have a fantastic episode this week for you guys, so I'm just going to get off of here.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BZ, and you know everything. Oh, hey there, friend. Thank you for being here. This one has been cooking for a really long time. This has been my own personal gripe. So I needed to really understand why I have so much issue with just show up, just do the dang thing. And there are a lot of reasons. So if you've ever felt like someone is suggesting you haven't been doing the work, that you are not 10 years older than them, or maybe 20, if you're anything like me. If you feel like you've got the experience, you've got the wisdom, you've got the strategy, you have been doing it and it's not working, please stick with me for this one. Just be consistent on this one thing. Because firstly, I feel you. It is so frustrating and so defeating to feel like you're showing up every day, doing your best and not getting what you want. And for some of us, we've been doing that for a really long time, decades. Okay. Some of you may feel like you've been doing it for a month and you should have completely different results. It doesn't. The amount of time matters not. And we're going to talk about why. I am very tired of people sitting in my seat, the mentors, the coaches, the gurus. I'm not suggesting I'm sitting in a guru's seat. Let's just be very clear about that. But I'm tired of being told, just show up, just do the work. We underestimate what we can achieve in 6 years and overestimate what we can achieve in 6 months. Sure. It's all well and good, but I'm here to tell you, just showing up every dang day and doing the thing is not how everyone is going to achieve their wildest dreams. I'm sure it has worked for some people. I've personally never met that person. I've never worked with that person. Maybe that's a me thing. Maybe I'm finding the workhorses and the worker bees because I think my greatest strength was my work ethic. I do not think that is it anymore. It came from like a pretty, I don't want to say it was inaccurate or self-depreciating, but I was never the smartest person in the room. I worked really hard to continually surround myself by people with people that I perceived as being much smarter and much more experienced and much more successful than me. I was not the fastest one in the room. I was always the goalie on the team. I was, interested in having a good time. And that never means you're not never. That means you're probably not going to be the best in the room. So I worked really hard. I knew that slow and steady wins a race. Might be more of the marathon than the sprint, but what we're going to talk about today is the myth that showing up consistently guarantees success. I really want to create a safe space for those of us who have been showing up day after day, year after year, decade after decade. You've been consistent and you've worked your ass off, and yet you haven't gotten what you wanted. You are very aware there is a gap between your immediate and desired realities. Okay. So firstly, we're cool. We're safe. We're going to get through this. And hopefully I'm going to bash through this quickly because I have a client right after this. I just really needed to get this one up and out. Because again, it's been cooking for a long time. I've been thinking about this for a really long time. And I finally had that aha moment somewhere in last week. I've been doing the Artist's Way, which was just a random ass. I do this exercise every year, but I was not achieving the level of productivity in my life due to a whole bunch of personal shit that absolutely deserved my time. And most importantly, my sort of energetic and attention. You know, you experience certain thresholds in your life, and I'm like feeling the tears well up. So I'm not going to get into it, but it demanded some time. Right. And I knew it was impacting my work. I also just didn't have the like chutzpah to make it work. That's kind of a first. The point being, I couldn't show up consistently. And the first story I told myself was, you were destroying everything you've created. Not exactly true. And the reality is I worked really, really hard, and I've created a certain level of space and freedom for myself so that I can do this emotional labor to create the life that I want. And it just took, investing energy into some things and not other things, like a podcast for a minute, but didn't miss a beat, did I? That's why batch processing is amazing. That's a different podcast that I'm not even going to recommend right now because we're going to get back to focusing. So I want to introduce the idea that consistency, while important, isn't a magic formula. And sometimes unexpected factors lead to breakthrough success. But I hear you. How do we manufacture those unexpected factors? So we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about strategies. I'm going to leave you with a 28-day plan, AKA a 4-week plan, AKA a month, AKA a moon cycle, if that's more your poison. So the Artist's Way, as per always, which is why I try and do it every year, has been transformative. And I always hit this. We're in week 5 right now. It's free. You can join anytime you want. I'm probably just going to make it like a freebie lead magnet thingo just because it is so great. It's also a very casual, come as you are, messy AF me, let alone the other people participating. So the point being, it gives you some space to play with some of these things in this 4-week strategy, if you will. And how can we release consistency yet create desired results? So I wanted to share a little story with you, though, that was incredibly impactful in my own professional development. I used to go to tons of conferences and industry conferences and network opportunities. And when I moved to a different country and I knew nobody and I knew nothing, I called it my self-induced professional development program. And it allowed me to approach these incredibly awkward, incredibly forced experiences where I felt like the smallest person in the room with a little bit of playfulness, like a little bit of like, I can't pay for the mentor and I can't buy the program, but I can show up in rooms with a whole bunch of people who are here I'm going to guess for the same reasons. That was incredibly magic for me. And then I think I'll talk about that somewhere else. But it helped me also understand who are the movers and the shakers and the creators and the impact makers in the industry. And there was one particular manager who really stood out to me, not because I loved his bands or I loved him, but I thought he was putting himself in spaces and therefore his artists in spaces that I thought were really cool. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't what everybody else was doing. And I also very much related to him. He seemed very approachable, very accessible. I liked the way he talked about the relationship he had with his artists. And I thought, this is someone who's doing things in a way that in 10 years, I'd love to be doing the keynote speech at this conference and connecting with the audience on this level. And so this particular discussion was around how to be successful, right? How to be the biggest name. And he was currently managing the hottest act in Australia and one of the hottest acts in the world at the time. And he said, there's eight factors to success. And what I want to walk you through are those 8 steps, because I believe if you can do these 8 steps, you are guaranteed success. And I was like, pen out, paper, like, let's go. And so he said, first and foremost is work ethic. Second is perseverance. Third is teamwork. Fourth is vision. Fifth is creativity. And then I'm going to leave the last 3 because I wanted to just kind of walk you through his definitions because I think they're obvious, but it's worthwhile. Work ethic, just are you willing to work hard for what it is that you want? A lot of people talk about what they want, but this is the consistency element, right? Are you willing to show up every day and do the dang thing? And especially when you have creative work, you can show up and recognize this ain't going to be the day. And you kind of still practice, you play your songs through, and then you let it go. But every now and again, you show up and something magical happens. That's the importance of work ethic in his mind. Second is perseverance. It's not always going to go the way that you want. We kind of just went through that. And also, sometimes you're going to get up and perform, and there's not going to be a lot of people in the audience. Can you still play to them like it's a packed room? Can you get a no and ask again? Can you ask in a different way? Can you experience some loss and do the dang thing anyway? That was his concept of perseverance. Teamwork. Are you willing to build trust and exchange with the people that you work with? And I can't remember if he pointed this out, but it was around this time that I had discovered the most successful. I do a lot of modeling. I find that useful, or I did a lot of modeling. I'm not actually finding it useful at all right now. But anywho, I digress. How many times in an episode do I say that? We should create a drinking game. You can drink kava or water or tea or booze, whatever tickles your pickle. Every time I say I digress, drink. You're welcome. The most successful artists have had the same team since day dot. And a person might have dropped out of under their own sort of volition, but it wasn't because the artist, there are other artists who fire their entire team annually. Just like you see, there are businesses that let go 60% of their staff every 3 years when they have a shift in leadership and they're trying to save costs. Like, there's something to that loyalty in the sort of team that is directly correlated to success. Vision. That was his way of describing your why. Simon Sinek hadn't done that speech yet. That's how old I am. So where are you going? Why do you want to get there? Why are you going to stay loyal, persevere, and show up, even if it's sucking right now, even if you don't feel like you want to do it? Like what is your vision? And then creativity. So creativity being, what is it that you are uniquely bringing to the diaspora? And we all know a lot of the most popular acts, it doesn't feel like they're doing something new, or it might feel like it's very derivative, but they're doing it in a way that is unique and special. And that's what people are really gravitating towards. So those 5 things, and I think he also had put these in order, like work ethic being the most important, followed by perseverance, then teamwork, then vision, then creativity. Now, the reason I wanted to leave these last six, number 6, 7, and 8, I think it's interesting that 6 is underneath the rest, especially in the music industry, but especially in the arts and in a creative industry. And we'll get to 7 and 8. But so number 6 being talent. He said work ethic trumps talent all day long, every day. And, I don't need to mention Bob Dylan and Neil Young, who we now would recognize as being renowned artists. But when they first started, I'm not sure it was, well, I know I can already hear you yelling at me about their lyrics and blah, blah, blah. But they were not doing what everybody else was doing. And melodically speaking, which was music's backbone at that point and up until then in the industry, they literally redefined this concept of vocals and melody. But there are plenty of artists we can look to that at the time one would not have called them talented. Yet we reflect back on their body of work and their life's work, and it is seminal, right? I just think useful to recognize talent underneath work ethic, perseverance, teamwork, vision, creativity. The last 2 factors being number 7, timing, and number 8, luck. Now, these are critical factors in your success, and you have no control over them whatsoever. However, work ethic, perseverance, teamwork, vision, creativity ensures at some point the timing and theoretically the luck, especially if you're really leaning into vision and creativity. And I talk a lot about this. I'll share this one with you in the Quantum Business Book Club episode about Gay Hendricks' books, Quantum, I just said that, Conscious Luck. Like, how can you cultivate? There's been a lot of this on the internet recently in terms of lucky girl syndrome, but moving at the speed of you and really understanding how you work best, and that opening up the opportunity for luck because you're in the right place at the right time, because that's just where you are. So the thing is, how does any of this relate to consistency, BZ? I hear you. Those 8 factors, I agree, will guarantee success. When? I can't guarantee. How? Also, no idea. But if you keep showing up with those 6 factors, you will find your timing and your luck. The spotlight will shine, my friend. But the question is, will you be ready? Those 6 factors say yes. There are a lot of people that the spotlight finds them and they are not ready, and it moves on, or it literally destroys them. I talk a lot about getting all of your ducks in a row. So when that spotlight shines, you are off and swimming. I was going to say swimming with the fishes. That's a different analogy. So we're all very familiar with this illusion of overnight success, but I don't think we often think about it in terms of the detriment of success. It's not just that a lot of people worked really dang hard to suddenly show up overnight, but when you haven't demonstrated that perseverance and that resilience, when you don't understand your own unique, innate, creative qualities, if you don't have that team around you, that truly trusted and symbiotic support system, success will kill you way faster than failure, way faster than failure. We know about overnight failures. We know about houses of cards is collapsing. And in fact, most of us are probably pretty good at failure. It's like when that success starts showing up on the horizon and a little bit of sabotage might creep in. Yeah, things can get a little bit dicey. We're going to talk about those examples, but we're then going to get really into consistency and why that alone is not enough. So let's get into it. I have 3, I don't want to say secrets, hidden truths. That's probably a secret, right? That I want to share at the end of this. So stick around, because the fallacy of consistency is real, but there are some benefits that when we dig into the semantics of consistency and we redefine how we perform best and how we can show up in a way that is true to us, it does guarantee success. So let's get back to it. The illusion of overnight success. We all know the overnight success and then failure stories. So there are some people who seem to just be able to show up and like nail it out the gate every single time. And I think so much of this has to actually do with so much history. And I was talking about this with a friend the other day, and they were commenting on an artist acquaintance of ours. And he said, she's got that rich girl confidence, the kind of thing where you can indulge in any idea and be batshit crazy because you've got a safety net. And it's interesting because I know a lot of artists who approach it in a completely different way, in the sense that they have no other option. They are batshit crazy. They see the world in a way that is in hypercolor. And that's just how they live their lives. They've never been able to do anything else. They were, 8-pointed stars and Merkabas and square holes, and it just never fit and never worked. They didn't have another choice. Like, there was no safety net. There was no net. And yet they took the leap every dang day. And so I get like where his judgment comes from. The reason I share that is we don't know someone's history. And in my experience, when someone has shown up as this like overnight success and they're able to harness it, there's a level of belief and security they have fostered in themselves. And that's what they do consistently. They believe in themselves and they bet on themselves. And it doesn't matter if they win or lose, because that's the success. It's determined by, did I do the dang thing? And did I do it knowing it was going to work out? That's why it works out. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's very obnoxious to experience. I totally get it. So there are hidden factors that led to this quote unquote instant success. And it's not just rich parents. Okay. It has everything to do with belief and support. And, honestly, those 6 factors that I just shared. Failures, we kind of love more than overnight success. Like, how much does everybody love a good downward spiral? I mean, it's the kind of thing that our media and our social and conversational connections are made of. It's like these insane downfalls. Like we I don't know if it's that we feel vindicated or validated, but this is why the longer it takes to achieve your success, the less likely of that rug getting pulled out from under you. Because I know we've all experienced that. Something from completely left of field knocks us completely off our rocker. And it doesn't matter how many strategies you had or how consistently you've shown up or how prepared you were, or like, it just fucking knocks you sideways. And those of us who've gotten hit a lot get back up, and we don't make a big story about it. We don't suggest that this thing we could never have possibly predicted means that we're stupid or we're failures or we're arrogant or we're ignorant. We just go, God damn, that was crazy. I'm going to need a moment to get back to I'm going to need a moment. And I'll know when that moment is done. And in the interim, I'm going to do my best to just not F it all up. So these sudden rises and falls lack the stability that comes from iterative improvement and understanding of the process. That, my friends, is the definition of consistency I want to lean into for the rest of this episode. It's not just show up every day. And in fact, that is a guarantee for failure, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, we know what that's the definition of, right? So I did another episode. It was another Quantum Business Book Club episode. I'm going to link to both of these in the show notes because they're very different, but it was on design theory and creative confidence. And that is something that the D School at Stanford University really systematized. And I think it is incredibly powerful. It is the way I have approached everything and always. So of course I was wildly validated that the D School at Stanford was like, this is how we do it. And I was like, that's how I always do it. But it talks about this idea of iterative improvement. And that is consistency. Let me rephrase. That's not consistency in my interpretation of it, because it's change. It is literally you show up and you do it a little bit differently each time. And that is how you optimize. Consistency alone is not enough. Consistency is not iterative learning. Iterative learning is the goal. So there are ways that you can approach a process and a strategy so that you refine it. And this is also, you've heard me say a million times, this was much more of an older school gripe of mine, but these people selling these silver bullet systems and solutions, yes, frameworks are very helpful, and they will always need to be adapted and applied to your unique situation. Now, I don't think business is unique. I think we all experience the same problems and challenges and different industry jargon and different descriptors. And, everyone kind of starts off with you don't understand my business and you don't know why it's so hard for me. I just might. And absolutely, you are going to need a unique strategy that works for you now. And as soon as that strategy stops delivering the results it's intended to, we iterate and improve on it. Okay. So adjusting the process based on learning is how you create impact. This is performance-based improvement. And, the concept of deliberate practice, that's another way of describing this exact same thing. So I believe I've heard just show up, be consistent. And that is my superpower. And by no means has that ever been enough. I've felt defeated by that. And that's why I wanted to create this episode. So the hidden factors for sustainable success. We already talked about the first one, resilience, bouncing back after failures or roadblocks. And I promise you this gets faster and easier every time, even when the failures are staggering. I literally just went through this. And again, you can make these 6-figure mistakes and just be like, well, I can't wait to see what I gain from this, because it is a very significant loss at the worst possible time. Cool. Strategic pivots, knowing when to adjust course rather than just repeating the same thing over and over again. There's a huge difference. A lot of my people have been like, the economy sucks, so I'm not making as much money. Maybe. What if we just own that you took your eye off the prize because you were making a shitload of money, and we just go back into our sales? Oh, wow. Sales hasn't been making the same number of calls. Sales hasn't been getting the same results that we typically do. I wonder why, so on and so forth, right? So rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just abandoning the strategy, figure out what step in your implementation plan has fallen short, and then evaluate it. That's where something like the economy could be relevant, could just be an excuse keeping you broke. I don't know. Align with purpose. So this is my values. Make sure you have filtered your activities, your strategies, this showing up through your values. We all know how easy it is to just show up and get on the hamster wheel and run as fast as you fucking can and get to the end of your day, because we use productivity as a metric for success and not be getting the results we want. That is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, okay? When you are not aligned with your purpose. And what I mean is you check in before you start doing anything and you ask yourself, am I going to engage in this activity with my values, feeling them coursing through my body, embodied? Some of these like woo terms are annoying, but truly it's going to change everything. Do I need to give you a gym analogy about showing up and just going through the motions as opposed to like actually feeling your muscles work? I really hope not. So success will come when consistent actions align with a clear purpose and your personal values, and they have been improved upon over time. This is how you also discover new ideas. These are where those hidden success factors pop up because you open yourself to new ways of doing things. You basically just say yes to, I'm open. What could possibly happen next? So lastly, I want to leave you with some things I've absolutely discovered personally, professionally, but getting to witness this process over and over and over again. And again, I like to model. So I am constantly looking at people's marketing strategies and digital marketing strategies and relationship building strategies and connection strategies and partnership strategies and negotiation strategies and financial strategies. That's like actually just how my brain works. I need to see like the schematic of how this thing is designed. There are huge growth spurts that occur in the quote unquote dormant phase. So when I work with people, I use that kind of like stair analogy. You are going to establish your business, then you're going to scale and experience rapid growth. Then you will plateau. Plateau can be perceived as failure. And especially when we get into businesses that are very investment heavy, what we see is an increase in expenses and a decrease in profit. And oftentimes the business overall might be running at a loss. It's usually more like one specific area of the business is running at a loss, which we could qualify as like research and development, right? We're in a growth spurt. And so it is out of whack. It is out of balance. I prefer to reframe this as the plateau, where consistency has created consistent and visible activity, but the transformation is now in asking, how can we do this better? What is no longer working? Where can we invest more? Where might we need to step back and pull back? So this is where the breakthroughs occur. And there's a ton of research and creativity and innovation that suggests after this period of incubation, some might describe it as a contraction. Again, I like to think of it as a plateau. We don't perceive as a ton of conscious work happening. It might be much lower in quote unquote productivity or simply activity. But this is when the best ideas can emerge because we actually have space and we're challenging ourselves to do things differently. I've talked about like Brian Eno's oblique strategies. There's a ton of different creative prompts out there that are essentially just like turning things on its head. And you'll hear so many people like Atomic Habits and the Diamond Cutter, and all of these people are kind of trying to hack this concept of productivity. And when you give yourself the space to actually think and create, you can. It's actually really simple. When you're working at like 110%, that's not going to be a creative space. That's okay too. I have a lot of people in, we called it grind season because they'd taken their eye off the prize. They've been riding this economic growth period. They've been riding some trends from the last couple of years that are slowly or potentially instantly transforming. And they realized that they needed to get back onto the ground level of their business. It's for a moment. It's not like the CEO is working in their business forever, but somebody left, some senior leadership evolved. We moved, right butts in the right seat. And it became kind of a grind season where it was taking a lot more direct input from them than they had been used to. That is iterative improvement, right? So emotional calibration over consistent action. And what was happening is, so these people were recognizing there's some analytics that are skewing negative, right? We're spending more money than we're making, or I'm working harder than I would like to. When we recognize that for what it is, an activity that we have every ability to both choose and get incredibly clear on as to why we're even engaging in it in the first place, we understand that our success is created in everything we choose to do, even if it's not our zone of genius. That was in very sarcastic air quotes. There are studies around emotional intelligence and cognitive behavioral therapy that suggest the mindset behind the action is more important than the action itself. This is the energy behind the action that I always talk about. Here's the thing. The research studies are all well and good. I know from personal experience, I know from every single one of my clients that when you choose to engage in something and you choose how you are going to engage in it, everything shifts. If it were as easy as to-do lists and being productive, we would all be wildly successful. If it were as simple as a spreadsheet and a strategy, everything would be done all of the time. Why isn't it? It's the energy behind the action. I have an example here. Athletes who visualize their success and maintain emotional focus often outperform those who purely rely on physical consistency. I literally just talked about this with my client. Are you taking yourself through the rest of your day or your tomorrow in the space and in the energy that you want to engage with it? I will often ask people to dream big, to go way far out there. But sometimes when we're exhausted and burnt out and completely overwhelmed, that's not a useful exercise for a lot of different reasons. But you know what I can do? I can take 5 minutes out to remind myself I am wholly and completely committed to fun, excellence, adventure, and freedom. And I can imagine 4 different experiences, or maybe one experience. I have one experience that I always tune into. One experience that absolutely I can smell it. It's so real to me. And then I can think about the rest of my afternoon, what I thought was going to happen, what is probably going to happen, ideally, and take myself through the next 4 hours with that feeling and get back to my day. It's that simple and that easy. I like to do this before I go to sleep every night. It's a little bit longer of an exercise. I mean, I could create a guided meditation for you if you want, but you have to let me know because I haven't done that yet. Anyhow, there is power in the plateau. That emotional calibration absolutely trumps consistency. And this is where the surprise and new levels of performance are unlocked. The brain responds to novelty by triggering creativity and innovation. You literally start thinking of new ideas when you try to do something differently than you have before. A surprise approach leads to sudden breakthroughs. My favorite success hack is you pick a couple hours a day, ideally a day a week, where you do something completely out of routine. It can be as simple as just get in your car and drive or go on a walk without a destination. And at every intersection, ask yourself, where should I go? What should I do here? Go to the coffee shop, bring a book, bring your computer, see what happens. Maybe you read, maybe you do some work, maybe you go down a YouTube rabbit hole. I don't know. Maybe you make eyes with a cute barista. Like, do things without an agenda. Whatever you think you should do the opposite. Really challenge your concept of routine and see what happens. The cognitive research shows that breaking routines and introducing new stimuli sparks brain activity that enhances problem solving and adaptability. You've heard about corporates doing improv workshops. This is why. Businesses that pivot unexpectedly and entrepreneurs who try something unplanned often experience greater innovation than those who rely solely on consistency. So I think I did another episode. Oh, it was the power to the pivot. In 2020, I went on this huge fucking rant about pivoting, because I don't think doing a 180 fucking pivot in your business is useful. And then I redacted that and did a power to the pivot episode about actually knowing, we talked a little bit about this, the strategic pivot, knowing when it is time to course correct. That to me is iterative improvement. It's not changing the destination. It's just going like, oh, wow, there's a lot of traffic there, or there was suddenly an accident. We might not be able to take that road. Let's look for another option. So I know I promised you a little 28-day plan. This is to just play with your own sense of inspiration. If you want something a little bit more prescriptive, please jump into the Artist's Way. Just email hello@nicolebz.com and we will get you the link to join. It's currently Mondays, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, most of the time. Every now and again, I have to reschedule, but I'm approaching it very casually because it's free and it's just as much for me as it is for you. So the first 7 days, just reflect and pause. This will be your plateau. But take a break from your consistency, showing up every day exactly the same way that you would from your routine and measuring your productivity as your success metric. Just stop for 1 week. Can you do that? I want you to focus on being human being. You can journal, You can track it. You can do a gratitude exercise. You can do a 5-minute journal. You can, whatever it is you want to do. But I want to challenge you to emotionally reconnect with your goals. You're probably going to freak out. And in that freak out is the story you're telling yourself about why this is so important to you. So spend a week just there. Okay? You're going to take your foot off the gas for a week. Anything that might dissolve in that week was probably ready to go anyway. That might be challenging. I'm here for you if you need me. Week 2, you're going to introduce novelty. So you're going to disrupt your routine with something completely new. When I do, every now and again, I do kind of intensives. So I'll offer somebody a week of like 8-hour-a-day coaching instead of, months. And we start every day with a different activity: surfing, mountain climbing, Kundalini yoga, like really weird, stretchy shit, depending on who the person is, right? When you spend your week realigning your daily actions to your deeper purpose and emotional drivers, it will enable you to reflect on why you started in the first place. What fuels your passion now? Week 3, you're going to take those understandings and reconnect to your why. So you're going to realign your daily actions and your deeper purpose with emotional drivers. You're going to choose one area to optimize based on what you learned in these previous weeks. And rather than trying to be consistent across everything, you're just going to pick one thing you kind of tinker with each day just to get an idea of what iterative improvement feels like. It's changing one thing about one thing. So like I'm constantly tinkering with my social media, right? And my assistant in all of her glory deleted like weeks worth of posts and was going to like workshop all of them. And I was like, how about we just delete one post and we just workshop the caption on the thumbnail? And let's do that until we hit a metric. You can define the metric. But rather than workshopping a whole bunch of different things and then applying the same change, the same multiple changes across multiple pieces, let's just work on thumbnail captions. And if we see a positive trend in the analytics, then we know we've figured at least that one thing out. Then we can test headlines. Okay? That gives us our strategic action. So you then return to your work with this shift in mindset and a focus on iterative improvement. Now take the skills you experienced playing with this one activity in your personal life and apply that to your professional experience. Choose one key area to optimize, and that's it. Bing, bang, boom. So 1, reflection, pause, plateau. Week 2, introduce novelty. Try something different each day in your routine. Week 3, use that experience to remember your why. And then week 4, create some strategic action that bakes in the iterative improvement process and step. So that's it, my friend. I think both the design theory and the conscious luck are going to be really helpful. Design theory, if you want to really drill down into this concept of iterative improvement and how to build strategy and process around that, because what you're essentially saying is plans are meant to be broken. And I'm going to create a structure I am purposely breaking down over and over and over again. Conscious luck is a little bit, if you feel like you've got that concept, you understand, you innately get iterative improvement. Conscious luck allows for those of us who are going at breakneck speed, who are constantly comparing ourselves to a past version of ourselves, who are convincing ourselves we're not going harder, faster, deeper, longer, more. It really helps you tune into what is the speed of you, and therefore how can you really optimize those key factors of timing and luck. I think that's all I got. And I think we got there just in the nick of time. Look at that. Magic happening. Yep. I got 5 minutes to say, if you need anything, I'm here for you. I love you. Thank you so much. hello@NicoleBZ.com. You know where to find me. The BZ Bot is all across the socials. And I highly encourage you to join the loop, my weekly musings on the thing keeping me up at night. I like to share different resources that I've tuned into as well. It's often like the books that I'm reading that'll probably eventually be in the Quantum Business Book Club, which is going to be getting off the ground any day now. I know I've been saying that. Well, I think I've only been saying that for like 2 months. Feels like 1,000 years. You're my favorite. Let me know your thoughts on this. Like, comment, share, all the things. Adios.